very wonderful good evening to all of you, to all the participants who are joining here from all across the globe. So we are back again with our master mentor Grandmaster RB Ramesh in our 52-week program. So for today's class, the topic would be the drawback destruction. So according to Newton's law, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. In the same way, every move has its merits and demerits. So we'll be talking more about in the session. So let me tell you about do's and don'ts for the session. So you have to use the chat box to give answers. When Ramesh will ask you questions, you can answer your questions in chat box and use Q&A box to put your all the queries. We'll answer them one by one in the last 10 to 15 minutes. So coming to the don'ts, you have to avoid spamming in the chat box. So don't put unnecessary comments and don't disturb others who are focusing on their chess, and avoid putting your questions multiple times in Q&A box. So about the RB Ramesh sir, he's the super coach of Indian national chess team, as you all know, and he's the most successful chess coach in the world today. He won British Chess Championship and Commonwealth Games in 2007. So he also served to the Indian Olympiad team in 2012, 2014, 15, 16, and 2018. So he has trained more than 10 grandmasters, and his academy, Chess Gurukul, is most renowned academy in India. So we have healthy number of subscribers here. Hello, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Sachin. Thanks for the introduction and all the explanations. And good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone. So today's topic is about drawback. So Sachin, can we start the session now?
Yes, sir. Now we have healthy number of subscribers. Without any further delay, you can start the session. I'll stop my share screen here.
Okay.
You can start sharing your screen.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Good evening, rest of you from India. Okay, so let's just wait a few more seconds. Like the numbers are stabilizing. Okay. So today's topic is about drawback. And Saumil, can you please change the chat message box to all panelists, please? So those of you who are trying to type chat, please change the. Yeah, I've shown this in the Dream Room as well, but not all the members who are attending the session are Dream Room subscribers. Some of them could be new. So for them, I'll just show a few examples from the Dream Room as well, but I will show a lot of other examples as well, so don't worry. So those of you who have seen these examples from the Dream Room, let it be a good revision for you. So please, my request to everyone, when you are sending the messages, in the chat window next to the to button, you will see an option all panelists. So please choose the all panelist option. So that way, whatever you type, only I can see, and it won't spam others and it won't disturb their concentration when they're trying to find moves. Okay. So thanks everyone in advance. Okay. So about the drawback. Now, this is a principle which is applied by all the top players. Almost all the chess players, they apply this principle, but mostly unknowingly and many times by accident. Okay, not with certain knowledge. So what does drawback mean? We all know about the concept of prophylaxis. That is paying attention to opponent's ideas, and if it's a good idea, try to prevent opponent's idea, right? That's how we understand prophylaxis, paying attention to opponent's idea and prevent it wherever we can and whenever it is necessary. Now, what is a drawback? Now, my simple logic is every move, they will have some good components and they will also have something bad in them, inbuilt. Okay? For example, if in a Rylopus or Geico piano opening, the white king is on E1 and the knight is on B1. I develop my knight to D2. And then you can say you're developing your knight, but you are keeping the king in the center. You are not castling. That is the drawback of knight D2. Okay. So then I say, okay, I take back my move. I give the knight on B1. I say, okay, I'll castle. Now see, my king is safe. then what you could say is now your king is safe, but your knight on b1 is not developed. Okay, so whenever you play a move, there will be some things good with that move, but there will also be some things bad with that move. Okay, so when you pay attention to the good things about the opponent move, we call it prophylaxis. But for the bad things about the opponent move, people don't really take this very seriously. It is simply assumed that if opponent makes a mistake, we will punish. But that doesn't usually happen. Once we enter the game in a computer and check with the engine after the game is over, engine will say you could have done this, you could have done that, you missed an advantage continuation, or you missed a win, and so on. And why does this happen? Because we did not realize in time that our opponent has given us an opportunity. We did not even notice that opportunity. Okay, so if we become good at drawback as well along with prophylaxis, then we will understand the game in a much more complete way. Okay, so what do I mean by drawback? Now, whenever your opponent makes a move, a piece goes from one square to another square. Then in the earlier square, it was doing some job. It was controlling certain squares. But when it goes to a different square, a new square, it is controlling some other new squares, and it has abandoned many of the earlier squares it was controlling. If you can do something about this, then it is called exploiting the drawback of the opponent move. Okay, so I'll just explain with few examples, you will get some idea. So now the knight is on c5. Okay, and what he did, one moment, I'll make the board a little bigger. Okay, so played knight d7. So when the knight is on c5, what it was controlling? It was controlling these squares. Okay, maybe I will use the red one. Right? The knight is controlling these squares, isn't it? Now, when I move my knight, what has happened? Those highlighted squares, they are not guarded anymore by the knight. Okay, so how can we exploit this? Okay, so many of you have seen from the dream room. I'll wait for others to. So I got some very severe sore throat. Try to make as minimum noise as possible for my throat. Okay, I'm reading all your replies. Okay, so Bhupali Sharma, you said C3. Okay, how does C3 exploit the knight going from C5 to D7? So the knight was controlling these squares, right? So if you can do anything on these squares, then you are exploiting the drawback of the knight move. So you should quickly see. So now it's obvious you cannot play rook e6, right? That looks too much. And you cannot do anything here. You cannot take the pawn. You cannot attack a6. Okay. So now if you put rook e4 or queen e4 or queen d3 or queen a4 or bishop a4, then you are exploiting the drawback of the knight move. Understood? So either if you play this or this or this or this or this, if you do any of this, you are exploiting the drawback of the knight move. So now we have a list. Then you should analyze one by one. Okay, so let's see. Now, could white have played queen f4 now? Not possible because the knight is controlling, right? So when the knight moves, I am able to play queen f4. So with queen f4, what I am doing, I'm attacking and indirectly attacking the pawn as well, right? So now if he goes queen c7 to defend the knight, I'll simply take queen a7 and win the pawn. Understood? So again, that will be the drawback of queen c7. Okay, so took. Now it's a pin. So the only way to save the exchange is rook d8. Now what is the drawback of rook d8? Drawback, rook e7. Won the pawn and won the game. Understood? So you just showed a simple example to explain prophylaxis. Let's go to 1 minute. Next example. Before that. Okay, so for highlighting the squares, if I press the Alt button in chess base 15, Alt button and then use the mouse, then it's so let me do this. So it's a green. Okay. Now if I press Control and Alt, Control Alt, then it becomes yellow. Now Control Alt Shift all three, it is red. Okay. So Neo Binu asked me, how do I do that? So for him. Okay, so let me quickly go to the critical position. Okay. Okay, so this is the critical position. So now what happens? He played e4. What is the drawback? Normally what happens is if you're playing a game, okay, what we will do? We will say, okay, I can play f into e4 or I can play f4, isn't it? How will our mind work? If you're actually playing if you're playing a game, how would your mind work? You'll be thinking about f4 or fe4, right? Or maybe rook f1, ef3, rook f3, something like that. But the drawback of f4 is the square e4 is the square f4 is weak. Now you can put a pawn on f4, but the drawback of f4 will be knight g4, right? He will get the g4 square for the knight. So what we can do? We can play knight f4. This is the drawback of e4. Now you're getting some idea about the drawback. Okay, so whenever a piece or a pawn moves, then you ask yourself which squares I get access now. Okay, earlier you were not having access to those squares. Earlier you were not having access to those squares. Uh, one minute, guys. Okay. So when our opponent makes a move, then we ask ourselves which extra squares I'm getting access now. Like when the pawn was on e5, you did not have access to f4 square, but with e4 you have that. Okay, so now the g6 pawn under attack, so he has to defend the pawn. So he did like this. Now what to do? So he played. What is the knight f4 defend and queen f7 defends the pawn? And what is the drawback of queen f7? So when the queen moves from here to here, it was controlling, it was earlier defending the d6 pawn, right? Now when the queen moved away, the d6 pawn is hanging. So when we ask ourselves the drawback, you get this. Nice. So he has to defend the d6 pawn now. So he did this. Now what is the drawback of the rook moving from e8 to d8? So rook moved from here to here. What is the drawback? This is the drawback, right? It left the e5 control. This control it lost. Okay. Queen d7 knight g6. Amulya. If queen d7 knight g6 will go. So this file he lost control. So if you do anything on this file, then you are punishing the drawback of rook e8. So that does not mean you have to blunder things. Okay, so some of you are saying knight e6, but you could simply take the pawn, right? Knight e6, f e6, knight e6, d6, queen e6. You lose a pawn. Rishi Charan, had he played g5, the previous move, okay, I could first take because I get open file. Now I could even consider that the drawback of a g5 idea made. Okay, so this will be too much. Rishi Charan, did you understand? Srikar, if you play g4, you are not punishing the e5. This is what he abandoned, right? So you have to do something here. Knight e6, it's not working. We are losing a pawn. So he took this. Okay, now he cannot take rook e4. That is a drawback of rook d8. Okay, so took with the knight. Okay, now exploit the drawback of knight e4. So the knight moved from f6 to e4. So which squares it abandoned? These squares, right? Along with this squares. Okay, this squares also it was controlling, but we cannot do anything on these squares. So only h5 and g4 we can do something. So you have to consider both options. You have to consider h5, you have to consider g4, and then choose what you think is good. Okay, so he played g4. Now, if the knight was on f6, he could have taken knight g4. Okay, but that is not possible. He cannot take fg4 because of queen e4. Okay, so now you see the principle of drawback here, how it is playing. So what are the common features? What did you learn from these two examples about drawback principle? What is common with these two examples? Exploiting drawback is decisive, controlling opponent square, principle of two weakness. No, 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 no. What do you learn about the drawback principle? Okay, so Venkatesh Sai Prem says for every move there is something good and something bad. Okay, and we should also look at the drawback, not only the ideas of opponent move. Every move has a disadvantage. One important thing you have to learn is like exploiting the squares which the piece lost control. Okay, so those squares, if you can do something like knight f6 to e4, we play g4, right? So whichever squares the piece or pawn abandons, you have to exploit those squares. That is one. The other thing is, okay, so Subhash and Pranav, can you please change to all panelists? Because whatever you type, everyone can see. Pranav Bharatwaj and Subhash. Please change to all panelists. So whatever you type, it won't disturb others. Okay, so now I will tell you one important tip. Please listen carefully. Okay, now the question is when we should play for drawback. This is important, right? When we should play for drawback. Okay, this drawback is very useful in attacking positions and when there are forcing moves, when there is calculation. Okay, whether you are attacking or when there are forcing moves or when you are calculating some variations, use drawback 4. If two or three, if two or three good-looking moves are there, look for the drawback. Okay, that move usually will be good. Okay, and the other important thing, if you have noticed this, when there is a drawback and your opponent defends, immediately another drawback move comes. He defends, another drawback move. He defends, another drawback move. Did you notice that? It does not come alone. It comes in succession. Okay, continuously, seriously. Like first move drawback, second drawback, third drawback, like that. Okay, because with the drawback move, you make him defend. So whenever he defends, you keep attacking with drawback moves. Okay, so let's go to the next example. Okay, 1 minute, guys. So Om Kadam is asking, what should we give preference in complicated positions, CCTV or drawback? See, CCTV to make list. Okay, and when you have a list of moves, from that choose the drawback move. First to analyze, not to play. Understand this difference. Even in forcing move, I'm not saying play forcing move. I'm only saying analyze forcing moves first. They both are different. Okay? Playing forcing move and analyzing forcing move. I'm only saying you should always analyze forcing moves first. Okay, Neobino, that happens once in a while. So Neobino says, I made a blunder today's game. Okay, don't keep worrying about it. Forget it and tell yourself, okay, today it was a bad day. Tomorrow it will be a good day. That's how we should take your losses. Okay, 1 minute, guys. I'm trying to find out at which moment the drawback appears. This one now. Okay. Okay, so the bishop, black just play bishop c4, white to play. Yeah, in quiet positions, the drawback may not be very effective. Okay, but keep paying attention. Whatever move he does, there is a drawback along with idea. Okay, so almost everyone got it. Drawback, right? It abandoned this diagonal with bishop c4. So this diagonal became weak and we exploit it. Okay, now he plays this. So what is the drawback now? The dot squares are weak. Okay. Make a list. So many of you are saying queen of 4 and knight e4. They both are very logical because knight e4 it attacks f6, d6, c5, all the dot squares. And queen f4 also looks logical. f6, e5, dark squares. Okay, but he did not play both the moves. He did not play queen a3 or e4 either. e4 also looks nice. He played a very surprising move. Now for e6, there is a clever drawback. What is that? Difficult. It's not easy to spot the drawback of e6. One, the f6, d6 squares become weak, right? That is fine. What else? Sandeep Nagare says in my laptop there is only the pulse. Okay. So now the problem is with the bishop. It cannot go back. Okay, that square has been taken by the pawn. So now everyone is getting it. Now you're going to go. This guy will not be very happy. Okay, if bishop e4, d5, e4. If bishop d5, like knight e5, bishop d5, e4, or bishop b5, a4. You're trying to trap the bishop. Okay. Now we played queen e7. Okay, what to do? Srikar, you said d5 previous move. We could simply take cd5. Ashwin Saran, yes. Nainika, no. Salman Gupte, no. Yeah, knight e5. Okay, now if you place bishop d5, you can play either e4 or c4. And if he goes bishop e5, a4. Okay, so he played b5. Drawback, kya hai? The drawback of b5 is the c pawn. Nice, no? So beautiful. See, what do you learn from this? What do you learn? Kya learn kata hai? Positional play, drawback. Yeah, if opponent makes one mistake, keep on punishing him. Drawbacks can be dangerous. Every move has an advantage and a disadvantage. Okay. When we can, we should exploit the drawback of the opponent. Yeah, not always. Okay. Wherever we can. Usually one drawback comes after another. It is something like lies. It's ideally we should not lie, right? But let's say I steal a pencil and then I'm getting caught. When teacher asks, "Did you steal the pencil?" And then we say, "No, I did not steal." Right? It's a drawback. And then the teacher asks, "Then who stole?" Now we should say, "I don't know." But what we normally do, that boy stole. Or this is another lie, right? So when one lie comes, it is followed by, to cover up that lies, we keep telling more lies. So same way, when a drawback comes, and to when our opponent punishes the drawback of our mistake, then we are forced to make another mistake to cover up for the earlier mistake. And then we punish the new mistake that is created. Okay, b5 saves the bishop, but weakens the c6. Okay, played knight b8 to defend c6. Look how beautiful the knight b8 is. So there is a drawback with knight b8. What is that? It's not obvious. Not very easy, this one. Explain in words. What is the drawback of knight b8? Okay, it is not controlling squares b4, c5, c7, right? b4, c5, c7, it is not controlling. Nirav, very good, fantastic. Nirav Kanwani. So Rishi Charan says, if black plays c5, dc5, he cannot take knight c5. Okay, what else? Knight is stuck, knight becomes passive. Fine. But what is the drawback? There is another drawback than all this. That is what he exploited, White exploited. Knight going to b8, there is a drawback which immediately White exploited. Okay, Ashwin, you are on the right track, but do it in the right way. Right idea, but incorrect move order. Many of you say a4. No, not a4. I'm not saying it's a bad move. a4 is perfectly a good move. But with knight on a6 also, you could play a4, right? When the knight was on a6 also, you could play a4. So you cannot say, because knight b8, I can play a4. Okay, drawback means, like, understand this way. Now, can you take bishop c6 when the pawn is on b7? You cannot take. But because the pawn moved to b5, I can take, right? So the drawback is always, like, if you have not moved knight b8, I could not have done this. Okay, that type of plan. Okay, so Ramya says rook b1, rook b4. Okay, so the point is, now the rook cannot go to b8 because the knight has gone to b8. That is the drawback. Okay, you see how differently you can think in drawback terms. So how can you exploit it? That he cannot go to b8. Yeah, Om Kadam, correct. So first take this out. Now this is a stupid pawn anyway. And now rook b1, he cannot play rook b8. Okay, that's the drawback. So now he has doubled pawns. He wants to eliminate the doubled pawn. And if he takes cd4, cd4, the c4 pawn can become a pass pawn with rook c8 behind the pass pawn, rook behind the pass pawn, which is very good for black. What to do? Drawback of c5. Okay, so some of you say one, some of you say another. But ideally, you should see both. There are two drawbacks to c5. What are they? Two drawbacks. Find both. Yash Patel, queen of 4 is not drawback of c5. So one is the diagonal is open, so you can get rook b7. That's what some of you say. Rook b7 is possible. Agree? What else? There is another drawback, which is c5 blocks this diagonal, right? It blocks this diagonal. So you can play queen a3. So it opens the diagonal, so you can play rook b7 or bishop b7. It blocks the diagonal, so you can play queen a3. What I'm trying to teach you is you have to see both moves. My complaint is some of you see only queen a3 and some of you see only rook b7. This is my complaint. Okay, so what lesson you can learn now from what advice I gave you? What lesson you can learn? Lucky, you are lucky. Lucky Verma, that's good. When you see a good move, look for a better one, right? And please never be happy seeing one move. Okay, that is immaturity. If you see a move and you like it, don't think it is the end of the world or end of you. Don't think You have seen everything. Okay. Always be curious. Okay. So instead of focusing on your results, rating, all this stuff, qualification, etc., teach yourself, be curious, be interested in learning how to think. So I just told you, you have to learn, you have to teach yourself to see many good moves, not just one good move. Okay? Simply, chess is such a beautiful game, such a rich game. In many positions, there are many ways, many approaches. Okay? So don't be satisfied, don't be narrow minded, being satisfied with only one interesting idea. Okay? Be curious, like a small child. Okay? It wants to play with everything, it wants to touch everything, it wants to break open everything. Okay, so Amulya says curiosity kills the cat. Okay, I don't believe in all this proverbs too much. Okay, don't like everything is fair in love and war, something like that. Then you can just kill everyone and say everything is fair in war. No, it's not fair, right? No, usually, see whether drawback is useful here, drawback is useful there. Don't worry about all these things. Okay, just understand from these examples that drawback is a new way to look at your position, right? So I have been thinking in one particular way. Now my coach is telling I can think in a different way as well. So a new door is opened. That's enough. When it will be useful, when it will not be useful, don't get too much into all this stuff. Okay, yes, you have learned about a very interesting way of thinking. Say, okay, let me apply this in my games and see how it works. Not only when you play tournament games, also when you see chess at home. Also look at prophylactically, look at the position prophylactically, look at the position from drawback viewpoint, and so on. Okay, and another thing I'm suggesting is don't be satisfied if you see a one good looking move. Okay, there could be other good looking moves, there could be other better moves also. Okay, so don't shut your mind by sticking to one move. Okay, let's see what he did. Okay, and then he slowly won the game. So now the drawback principle is like coming to an end in this game. You cannot play all the 70 moves or 40 moves in a game using only drawback. Okay, so usually the drawback comes in sequence, 2 or 3 or 4 moves. It comes in succession. So he is ready for CD4 now. He has defended the queen e7. What can we do? So if opponent counterattacks our drawback, then what we should do? Pranav is asking. Very good. That is how usually it should happen. Okay, the attack should be met with counter attack. That is the best situation. But usually, all the time we cannot do that. Sometimes we'll be forced to play defensive moves. Okay. Ramya and Mudit say d5. d5, e5, you are a pawn down, right? You want to take bishop d5, rook d5, rook b8. But you'll be exchanging bishop g2 for knight b8. So you should play d5 if you think bishop g2 is worse than knight b8. Anyone thinks bg2 is worse than knight b8? bg2 is fantastico. So even though d5 looks an interesting tactic, so some of you said the point is this. Okay, so what have we achieved? Nothing on the 8th rank. No other piece. Look at this rook. Is it doing anything to support the rook 8th rank, nothing much. And so we have just gone exchange our bishop for this knight. Okay, not much gain. So the point is, don't get carried away by your ideas. That's what is happening to many of you. You see some interesting idea, you get carried away and immediately think, hey, I saw this, so it has to be good. No, it could be wrong also. So he played quiet move. Okay, took. This is forced. And now you have an option. You have to consider both options and then take a call. Okay. So some of you say ED4 and all. Sorry, rook B4. Okay. Why ED4? Because white does not want black to get a pass pawn if CD4. But if you think the pawn is not so dangerous, then you can actually take CD4. Okay. But here he has a reason why he took ED4. We will see that soon. No, it is not a pass pawn, it's just a weak pawn. But our C3 pawn is also weak, but he cannot attack the C3 pawn so easily. Now you have to find a good move. Find a good move for white. Okay, guys, please slow down. Many of you, I am an attacking player. I try to create some attack against king. It will become somewhat successful, but I end up miscalculating and often get chance to neutralize. And I become emotional and end up losing or drawing. So, guys, can you please stop typing messages? Please, just for a few minutes, okay? So, one of the viewers is saying, I'm an attacking player. Okay, now I just read what he has typed. In that, what I find as odd or interesting, I will explain now. So first thing he says, I'm an attacking player. So in some sense, it is good if you think you are an attacking player. But the point is, when you say you are good in something, what you also mean. Let's say I'm a good bowler in cricket. What does it mean? It means you are good in bowling. What it also means. Now you can type. One, you are overconfident. No, weak in other areas. Right? I'm not good in batting. Right? If I say I'm good in bowling, I'm not a good batsman. So if I say I'm a good batsman, I'm not a good bowler. You understand my point? Okay. Now stop typing again. I have to go up to the question he said. So when you say I'm an attacking player, okay, so what does it mean? I'm not good in defense. I'm not good in endgame. My opening may not be so good. Okay, my positional sense may not be good. Something like this. Okay, so don't just be a good attacking player. Be good in everything. Okay, so first point. Second, I try to create some attack against the king. Okay, now, so you think you are an attacking player and then you try to create an attack. Okay, so it means like you've already formed an image about yourself and you are trying to live up to that image of yourself. Because I am an attacking player, I have to attack. I must attack. It becomes compulsory to attack. Okay, so just because you are an attacking player, it does not mean you have to attack in every game. Okay, so the question is when we should attack. When your opponent's king is weak, when you have enough pieces on the side where your opponent is weak, then you can attack. Right? You cannot say I'm an attacking player and then play h4, g4 here. Does it make sense? I call myself attacking player and then I start playing h4, g4, g5, something like that. Okay, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so don't play according to your style alone. Play what the position demands. Whatever the position requires, give it. Okay, and then I end up miscalculating. So I say I will attack and then I will end up miscalculating. It's obvious you have to improve your calculation. And then opponent gets counterplay. And then I become emotional. Okay, now whose problem is this if you become emotional? It's your problem, right? So when things don't go as we want them to go, it is natural to become emotional, but natural to become emotional doesn't mean it is good. Hmm? Suppose, let's say, I have a sore throat. Now, so much phlegm gets accumulated, and then I feel I have to spit. So, can I just spit in front of everyone because I have to do it? No, it doesn't look nice, right? So, you have to consider a lot of things. Just because you want to do something, it doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to look at other things also. And getting emotional is not something you should be proud about in a game, in a sport. Okay? It is okay to become emotional and then you should immediately regain control. Okay, I'm becoming emotional. I should not be like that. I have to be more practical, realistic. Okay, fine. So now let's go back to the game. Here he showed why he took ED4. Okay, boom. If CD4, then he could not have played rook e5. Now, what is the rook e5 doing? Now, see how beautifully he plays. The rook is in the open file. It is good. The bishop is in the open diagonal. It is good. But the rook e1, it's not attacking anything. Okay. So is the rook b1 and bishop g2. The bishop g2 is in a beautiful diagonal, attacking nothing. Okay. So you have to make the bishop attack some weak one. Okay. But the priority is which piece I need to improve first. So since the rook b1 and bishop g2 they are already well placed, even though they can be improved, the rook e1. Okay, so this rook it can go here, it can go here. Sometimes it can go even here, like rook c5, rook c5, d c5, and then c6. Create a pass pawn. Okay, so Gautam Chakravarti says, "Can I increase 300 rating points after the 52-week class?" See, Gautam, it is like this. Now, to improve your rating, all this stuff. Okay. Again, you see, many of us we always play chess for these type of reasons. I want to increase my rating. I want to achieve that. I want to achieve this. Okay, it depends on a lot of things. How hard you work at home, how good you are improving, how good you are at learning. This is one of the important things I. So, in my view, to become a good chess player, you need a few things. Okay, can we go into that? Or do you want to learn my view on that? To become a good player, what qualities we need? You guys are interested? Okay, fine. I'll just quickly tell what I find are important qualities to become a good chess player. Okay, one is talent. Okay, so for example, I don't have talent for languages. I'm good in Tamil, I'm good in English, little good in Hindi. That's it. No Chinese, Japanese, Spanish. Okay, so I'm not interested in learning languages. So I don't have talent for languages except one or two. Okay, so everyone cannot be good in everything. Okay, everyone will be good in something for sure. We are all fantastic, excellent in some areas. Okay, and whole life is about finding those areas. Okay, that's how I see. So when I was playing chess, I never thought I will become a chess coach. Later it happened, right? So it is a self-discovery. So first thing is talent, and this is not something which we can change. That is not something we can buy or upgrade. Apple 7 to Apple 8. We cannot upgrade. Okay, so whatever we have, we are happy with it, and we will play chess with that. Okay, so one is talent. Now, second is, and immediately some of you may get a question: can someone with not a super talent, like Carlson is a super talent, right? No, Anand is a super talent. Casper is a super talent. There are many guys who are super talent. So does it mean others cannot become grandmasters or good chess players? No. In my view, if you are reasonably smart, okay, then you can become a grandmaster. That is my view. Okay, but just being smart is not enough. You need a lot of other qualities also, which I will list out. So one is basic talent. Second is hard work. Okay, you should have the ability to work hard. Okay, so this working hard, I have different way of understanding working hard. It is not just more work. I'm not saying working more. I'm saying working hard. Okay, so like I've had like some arguments with Mr. Jakabakar. He says, don't tell hard work to young kids, they'll get demotivated. So tell them smart work instead of hard work. You don't need to work hard, you have to work smart. Okay, but I feel like you have to learn the truth. Okay, if you are a small baby, we have to put an injection for you, some vaccination. So I can say, hey, baby, look there. And when the child looks there, I do pachak. Right? I can do that. But can I do that to a 12-year-old boy? Hey, look there and then pachak. No, I have to tell him, right? He's mature enough to understand. Okay, this vaccination is required and it will be little painful, but definitely bearable. Okay, so be mentally ready, be physically ready. And then I can tell him, okay, so I'm going to do it. If you want, you can close your eyes. He closes the eyes, I do pachak. Okay, but he should know that this is what we are going to do to him. So similarly, if you want to become a good chess player, you should know that I have to be responsible. I have to work hard. No shortcuts. Okay. The point is, are you determined enough? Are you ambitious enough? Are you smart enough to work hard, to do what is necessary to become a good chess player? That is hard work. Do whatever is necessary to become a good player. Okay. So if you have to see so many games, I will see. If you have to solve so many puzzles, I will see. If you have to read from books and learn, I will do. If you have to study classics, games from the past masters, I will do. I have to revise openings, I will do. I have to remember many variations, I will do. I have to learn endgames, I will do. Even I don't like endgame, I will still learn endgame because I need to be good in endgame to be a good chess player. So whatever is required to be done, I will do. Okay? So that kind of determination you should have. The third is passion. I would even put passion as number 2. Love for the game. Okay? You should love chess. Chess should make you happy. Okay? So that helps you when tournaments are not going well. So do you think every chess player, all the tournaments they play very well? No. Many tournaments, even good players struggle, suffer. Now what about Carlson? He is playing every tournament, fantastic. What about his opponents? So Carlson beats Nepomniachtchi, Carlson beats Dengliran, Carlson beats Anand, Carlson beats this guy, Carlson beats that guy. What about those guys? They are bad players? No, they are also very good players. They still lose, right? They have their bad days. They have their bad tournaments, right? So everyone has their share of bad days and bad tournaments. So don't think you are exceptional. You should not have any bad games or bad tournaments. No, simply not possible. You will have your share of bad days and bad tournaments. You have to live with it. And if you are having the courage to handle your bad days, you will have your share of good days too. Okay? So be ready to get beating and still come up in life. That's a very important quality. Okay? So that is where your love for chess will help you. It will give you the strength. okay, to handle bad days. I love chess, so I'm willing to suffer to become good at it because I love chess. Okay, so this love for the game, talent, hard work. Okay, and fourth, very important, the ability to learn. Now, this is what usually distinguishes a champion from others. Okay, so for the champions, if you tell them, okay, drawback principle, you understand 2, 3 examples, immediately they grasp it. You don't need to show them 1,000 examples, just 2, 3 examples. Okay, using 2, 3 examples, they understand, oh, this is what drawback is. And not only that, from then on, if you show them any position on drawback principle, they'll quickly come up with the right answer because they have understood and learned what drawback is. And because they have learned it well, they can apply it in their thinking. They can apply it in their games. Now, I have taught chess to many players. And the only problem is they may be talented, they may be extremely hardworking, they love chess, and they don't improve. I've seen many like this, and it hurts. I feel very sad when I see such players. They are extremely ambitious, hardworking, they have reasonable talent, and still they don't make progress. Okay, and one of the things I feel is they don't learn well. Okay, and this is very important. Okay, so when something is taught to you, in the first or second example, you should understand what it what it means. Okay, so like I say, when you see a good move, look for a better one. Now, I remember when I was a young boy, when I read somewhere that when you see a good move, look for a better one. I was shocked. Like, what nonsense is this? But Lasker, fantastic player, he's saying this. When you see a good move, why don't you just play it? That makes more sense, right? Why should I look for a better one? It did not make any sense to me. Then, because it did not make any sense to me, I became very upset. No, I had so much respect for Lasker, and this guy says, "If you see a good move, look for another good move. Why waste time?" Okay, then I thought maybe my understanding is an opportunity for me to learn something. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not understanding something. I thought, what I'm missing here? And then when I see some good players games, I see some good move, and the strong player plays a different good move. And slowly I realize there are in many positions there are more than one good move. Okay, and you are thinking in one particular way, and you have to learn to think in different ways, where you have to teach yourself to see moves which you normally won't see. You have to teach yourself to see moves which you will miss if you are careless. Only if you are extremely alert, you can find such moves. And you should find such moves consistently every time there is a chance to play such moves. You have to teach these qualities to yourself. Okay. So many times, like someone asked, like, if I attend the 52 weeks, can I increase 300 points? So why not 303 points? Why not 307 points? Why not 293 points? Why not after 52 week? Why not after 51 week class itself increase rating? Okay, don't go into all this mess. Okay, because we care about these things, we don't care about the more important things. Hmm? There are more important things. Now, if you give to a child like one big diamond, okay, and let's say it's $1 million worth, one big diamond, and you give one big chocolate, what the child will choose? The chocolate, because it for the child, the big diamond doesn't have any value. It does not understand the value of the diamond, right? It thinks chocolate is more worthy. Chocolate has more value than the diamond. So for the child, it will choose only the chocolate, not the diamond, right? So the same way, currently we are having giving importance to certain things, but there are more important things. Like I said, the ability to learn. Okay, most of us we have the ability to hear, ability to listen. Okay, we listen to what is taught to us, and we think we convince ourselves, I understood this and I can apply it. But no, many times, even if you listen carefully, if you understand thing very nice, you still cannot apply it. Let's say I say, to get a good attack you can sacrifice a pawn, and then you get a position where you can sacrifice a pawn and get a good attack. You see the idea but you think it's too risky. No, what if my attack is not strong enough? Then I'll simply be a pawn down. So why should I sacrifice the pawn? And I don't sacrifice the pawn, right? But I understood the concept very well. Okay, so these things are very important: talent, hard work, passion for the game, love for the game, the ability to learn. Okay, so whenever something is taught to you, you read about something, think about it. Okay, spend a lot of time thinking about it. What are they trying to teach to us? Okay, fine. So let's go back to the position. So rook e5, it has multiple ideas. Yeah, fine, Neobino. I'm happy you see it that way. So with rook e5, yeah. So rook e5 has all three ideas. He may go rook c5 or rook b5 or rook a5. Okay, now this is very important. Am I choosing where my rook will go when I play rook e5? This is very important, extremely important. Okay, so I see rook e5 and I see there are many interesting possibilities with the rook on e5 than the rook on e1. Right? With rook e1, I don't get these exciting possibilities. But from rook e5, I have all these possibilities. So I will never commit myself that next move I'll put my rook here only. No, I will decide later. This move I know, if I have to go c5 or b5 or a5, I have to go to e5 first. So first I will go to e5 only. After that, what I'm going to do, I don't know. I will decide at the right time. Okay, learn this type of thinking. So with this move, he has stopped rook c5. So now we have only two moves, b5 or a5. And you should immediately slow down, not immediately make a list. Okay. Now you have heard about in India that some people do, like the parrot. They'll have a parrot in a cage, and they'll have many cards. Let's say 50 cards. Okay. And then when someone says, "Okay, tell me about my future," the guy opens the cage. He puts all the cards on the floor. What the parrot does? It goes and picks a card. And then this guy opens the card and says, okay, this parrot says, in your life, you're going to do this, or this is going to happen to your life. Fortune teller, right? So what does the parrot do? It just picks a card. Whatever the fortune teller says, it is his own interpretation. You may choose to believe it or you may not choose to believe it. But for the parrot, what it is doing, it is simply playing, choosing a card. That's it. Okay, it does not understand the consequence, what is good or bad about choosing this card. It simply picks a card. Now, why I told this example, can anyone tell me? So now Yasha Speci says a very important thing. He says, let's say if opponent plays a move like h6, I get very confused. Which idea I should move? Rook c5 or rook b5 or rook a5? Okay. So this is a very valid doubt, right? So if he plays like h6, where I should put my rook? Okay. So I get really confused. I understand. Okay. Now in the game he played, now here also you have a choice, rook b5 or rook a5. Now first thing you have to realize is, like, you cannot always play all the correct moves all the time. Then we will all be world champions, right? So don't have such expectation. Okay, simply like don't expect to win every game you play. It is not possible, right? Some games you will draw, some games you will win, some games you will lose. It's going to happen. So don't have such fantasy expectations that you will never lose and you will win all the games, all this stuff. Okay, so the point is, so when you have a choice, C5 or B5 or A5, don't have the expectation that you will choose the best move. That may not happen. It may happen, it may not happen. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is do the best you can. That is all you have to do. Okay, you can think and play some move, right? Do it. Don't choose like a parrot, rook b5 or rook a5 without analyzing. Okay, if you choose rook a5 or rook b5, just like that, how different you are from the parrot? Are you any different from the parrot? Hmm? If you just choose rook b5 or rook a5 just like that, hmm? You have to analyze. We have brains. Parrot also has a brain. Okay, it uses the brain and it knows only if I pick a card, I will get food. My boss will feed me. So it will pick a card. And the rest is up to the boss how to interpret that card and make money. Right? So, but humans, we are more intelligent. Okay? You can actually analyze and then take a call. You may choose rook b5 or you may choose rook a5. Okay? After you choose, your coach says or the computer says that is not the best move. It's fine. You tried. So what is wrong? You tried to find the best move between rook b5, rook a5, and you thought X move is best. You played it. And computer or coach or your friend says that is not the best move. You say, fine, I tried. I'll try again. Okay? So don't have the expectation that you're always going to play the best moves. Okay, so what do you choose? You play rook a5. Why? You should ask why. So that way we can learn. Bharatwaj, we will go to Q&A only towards the end of the class. Okay? So now we should ask why rook a5, why not rook b5? Okay, the point is, let us say you have a problem in your house with some tap. The tap is leaking. The water is leaking from the tap. So we call a plumber, right? And he brings 3 plumbers with him. So there are 4 plumbers now to solve one tap leaking. Is it necessary? Just one plumber is enough, right? Right? He could have come and solved the problem and gone back. Instead, he brings 3 more guys, and all the 4 they fight with that tap to fix it. Wasted effort, right? So the same way, the rook b1, it is already doing something useful on the b file. So whatever needs to be done on the b file, the rook b1 can do it. Okay. So what is the rook doing on a5? It is doing something which the rook b1 cannot do. So basically what you learn from this, each piece should do a different job. All the pieces should not be doing the same job. And why we can just have all 8 pieces as rooks, right? Why have a knight? Why have a bishop? Why have a queen? Right? They all should do different things. Right? With each piece, you do different things. You attack different targets. You create multiple problems. Understood? So rook a5 is a very logical move. Knight b6. What is the drawback of knight b6? The idea of knight b6, maybe knight d5 and attack c3. What is the drawback of knight b6? This square became weak. Okay. Now the question is how I can exploit it. definitely not by becoming emotional. So now you have two ways to exploit it. You can directly go rook c5 and say this is the drawback, or you can go rook b5 idea, rook c5. Now if you go rook c5, he can take and play knight a4, right? And c5 and c3 pawn are under attack. So good. Nice drawback for rook c5. Okay, now he played something which is very hard. No Prasad. What Prakash Chaturvedi? Typing some irrelevant things. See, what does rook d d7 mean? What does it tell about the position? It's playing very passive, right? With rook d d7, he says, I don't have any active plan, right? He doesn't have useful moves. So when your opponent is helpless, don't show all your beautiful ideas. Okay? Just let him play by playing some useful moves. Okay. So he played. Why this move? Why this Kolaveri? This pawn is weak, right? So if you can come to king d2 or something, you can defend that pawn. And in the end game, the king should defend weak pawns. So if the king can defend the weak pawns, your other pieces can attack his weak pawns, opponent's weak pawns. Okay? So never forget king in the end game. So now black also remembers he has a king. Now when you go like this, you should be careful with this. But rook e5 is there. So even though you go in the same rank as the rook, normally we should not do this. Normally we should not do this. This is an exception. Now he played a small useful move. No great ideas. Okay, just improves the position of the bishop. Now he's coming knight d6. So he did this. Now it's not a fork. Guys, I'm typing some answers to the Q&A. Is everyone able to see the answers, or only those who type the question can see? Everyone can see? Okay, fine. So you could just go through the answers I typed for the questions. Okay, so he went rook c5. It's a beautiful game. Know what to do. So tomorrow I'm playing with one of my closest friends. Forget all friendship, everything. Okay, I played with my brother in a tournament when I was young, and I fought for a win. Once I won, once I lost. Okay, so all this friendship business, don't bring it into the board. Just treat him like any other opponent. Okay, he played. See, the rook is very good. The rook is already attacking the pawn. The bishop is good. It's in an open file. Okay, but the king is not doing anything. So what is he trying to do? Trying to improve the king, and he cannot play rook b7 check. Okay, beautiful, no? So how they improve their pieces? Know what to do? Take the rook or not take? Exchange the rook or not? Okay, so I played this because he feels the white rook is much better. Because you see, he is not able to capture this file. Now he cannot go rook c8, rook b8 because the a7 will fall. Okay, so now even after knight here, he cannot come here, here. Okay, so the rook is going to be passive. So white just calmly brings the king. Beautiful, no? So the king was on g1 some time back. Now it has come to b4. Fantastic lesson. Don't forget king in the end game. So you see every white piece, it is doing a useful job. The bishop f3 as of now, it is not doing any useful job. But many times when the knight was on b6, it was not allowing the knight to come to d5 and attack the d5 pawn, c4 pawn, c3 pawn. Know what to do. Yeah. So now he's finally ready to exchange and win the c4 pawn. So one of my relatives, he lives in Canada. Okay, he has come to Chennai. So he said that he's a physiotherapist. Okay, so he said, like, if you think you are sick, then your body will actually fall sick, even if you are very healthy. Okay, so he said, like, if you go to a hospital, even if you are very healthy and you go to a hospital, you'll start feeling sick. You will fall sick, something like this. Okay, whether you believe this or not, that is irrelevant. But the point is, if you think something negative, usually the negative will happen. So avoid such thinking. Don't go to hospitals. So you see how beautiful, including one more unit into the attack. Okay, he's using everything. See, first the king was not playing anything. Now the king is joined. Then the a pawn is also doing something. So what do you learn from this? The king joining the game, the a pawn joining the game. Many of you wanted to play rook c6 check or bishop e2 and bishop into c4. Win the pawn. Okay, but what do you learn from the move a4? Involve everyone. Pranav Bharatwaj says. Make most of all your pieces. It is not like bishop f3 is dummy piece, right? Not doing anything. Doing something useful. But what is the a2 pawn doing? And do not rush, Mitran says. So we want to win the pawn quickly, now. It's like you give a chocolate to the child, it wants to eat immediately. No patience. Okay, so that is why in endgame, one of the most important principles is do not hurry. Okay, have patience. The c4 pawn is ours. Okay, you will eat it at the right time. So don't be greedy and selfish and give counterplay. Okay, and you won the game. Okay, you won the pawn. And not only that, you see, he could have taken king c4. But now he plays this because by taking the pawn, you are improving the bishop. Now it will actually attack something. Okay, the king can anyway go and win the other pawn. Possible. I don't know why that Ramak is coming in this game. One minute, guys. Okay, let me show this example. Okay, I'm replying for the questions. So, I'm sorry. Okay, so this position. Okay, so in this position, black played queen e8. Sachin, I'm replying to the questions by typing.
Okay, sir. Okay, you can start.
Yeah. So white to play, guys. now he played this move. Now let's see. Took. Now the bishop is hanging. Okay. Played here. What to do? So now the drawback of the bishop disappearing, bishop f6. Now he cannot take rook f6. He has to do this. Now what's the drawback of this? Okay. Now he's threatening queen g4 or knight f6 or even queen d2, queen h4 and so on. And he won the game. Okay. So you see the queen b8 to a8, it went to the corner of the board, immediately started action in the center, and then drawback. ed5, ed5, it opens the e5. Rook e8 defends the e7 bishop, you take rook e7. And once the bishop e7 is gone, the f6 is not defended well. Okay, so you see how he was continuously exploiting the drawback. Okay, fine. So let me just quickly answer the last few questions. Okay, so no more extra questions. There are two more questions. I will answer that. All the other questions I have already given my reply by typing. Okay, so these two questions I will answer live. So Yasha Speci says in endgames in bishop versus knight, is bishop good than knight? Because bishop can give a lot of waiting move, but at the same time, bishop is a handicapped piece. I do not understand what to do in time pressure. Should I prefer knight or bishop? Okay, so for this, you have to see more examples. See, you have a question. In endgame, bishop is good or knight is good. You cannot say bishop is good or knight is good. Okay, in some positions, knight is good. In some positions, bishop is good. You have to see more examples. Only then you can understand this. Okay, just by talking, I cannot explain this. Okay, the last question for the day. I want to improve my positional chess. What should I basically do? Which book and which players I should follow? For players, I would say like Karpov, Winslow, Capablanca, like that. Study from classics. You will understand better. Petrosian, like that. And basic books. Okay, Doretsky's book Positional Play is good. Agard's book Positional Play and Strategic Play, they are good. Okay, there are many other good books too. Okay, fine. So let us start today with this. Sachin?
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session and it was quite informative for all of us. So we will meet you again the next Saturday with next session. So till then, everyone, goodbye to all and goodbye to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Sachin. And good night, goodbye, everyone. See you next week.